What's up, everybody? And how we doing, Hawkeyes? Josh Elmer here on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Hope everybody's having a terrific start to your July 4th holiday. So happy you've chosen to spend at least a little bit of time with us right here again on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Happy 4th of July, all. I'm Josh Elmer, your host right here on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Iowa at the voice of college football. So this is our weekly call-in show where we open the floor for you to dive into whatever you'd like to dive into in the world of college athletics, in the world of Iowa athletics. And again, the floor is yours. I know probably plenty of you out there are getting ready for your 4th of July celebrations with your families. So thanks for spending a little bit of time with us. And I know many of you probably getting ready to start grilling up hamburgers, hot dogs, and all that fun stuff that we like to do on the 4th of July. Well, we do have big news in the way of Iowa athletics today. Something that Iowa fans have been waiting on, calling for a long, long time. Before Iowa head men's basketball coaches Ben McCollum, before Jan Jensen, there was plenty of discussion about, hey, when and what do we have to do to get the Iowa student body closer to the floor for men's and women's basketball games? What do we have to do to get that accomplished? And, well, today you got some good news. Iowa unveiling the ticket pricing for men's and women's basketball today, wrestling as well. And we can talk about what some of that pricing looks like for Hawkeye fans. But the big puzzle piece today wasn't the pricing for men's and women's basketball tickets. It wasn't the pricing for season Hawkeye wrestling tickets. It was this: the University of Iowa announcing that there will now be a courtside student seating option, which again is something that Hawkeye fans have been pining for, calling for some time. Here from the release: new for 2025-26, a courtside riser with capacity for over 200 individuals will be installed on the south baseline of Carver Hawkeye Arena. Primarily designated for student seating, this platform will enhance the in-game atmosphere by bringing fans close to the court, in addition to providing additional floor-level concession opportunities. Information on the sale of UI student season tickets for men's and women's basketball will be distributed to students in September. So the long-awaited news by many: how can we get these students closer to the floor for men's basketball, for women's basketball? And primarily, we're talking about men's and women's basketball inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. How can we get those folks closer to the arena floor for men's and women's basketball? And didn't seem to be a big emphasis for the previous athletic director, Gary Barta. Didn't seem particularly concerned with it. Beth Getz had talked in the past about the importance of trying to do a better job of engaging the Iowa student body. And today, again, you get the big news that, well, I'm sure Ben McCollum, Coach Jan Jensen, I would imagine they're happy campers today, finding out. They probably have known behind the scenes that this was in the works, but the student seating that many Hawkeye fans have called for, you're getting it. This is one step in the right direction toward fixing the environment inside Carver Hawkeye Arena in 2025-2026 and moving forward beyond that. Obviously, the experience with Caitlin Clark with women's basketball, it's been second to none over the past couple of seasons in particular, and post Caitlin Clark, right? Last season with Lucy Olson and that group, the fan base, it was terrific. You had every season ticket allotment, all of the season tickets sold out for Iowa women's basketball last season, but that obviously not the case for Iowa men's basketball. And so the thought has been, okay, how do you get the students engaged? How do you make Carver Hawkeye Arena a place that's intimidating for opponents? And the obvious answer, the obvious fix would be you get the students down closer to the floor. So again, for those that are just now joining us on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live, happy to have you right here, Iowa, at the voice of college football. The big news today, it's not college football for Iowa. It's the new courtside student seating inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. Just again, read the release here one more time. New for 2025-26, a courtside riser with capacity for over 200 individuals will be installed on the south baseline of Carver Hawkeye Arena. Primarily designated for student seating, this platform will enhance the in-game atmosphere by bringing fans close to the court, in addition to providing some additional floor-level concession opportunities. Get those Carver cones, right, down there at floor level. That's what you're hoping for this student body. A decision that Beth Getz and the athletic department probably didn't have to stress out over a ton. This felt like a no-brainer. Again, it's been something that the fans, and I think Fran McCaffrey and Coach Bluter and Coach Jan Jensen before Ben McCollum's arrival, something that they've wanted. You kind of walk that tightrope, I think, at times as a coach, not pushing those buttons too much of your athletic department, understanding all of the different items that the athletic department does to promote your program from a fundraising standpoint and on the recruitment side. So maybe at times not totally willing to ruffle those athletic department feathers, so to speak. But I think everybody understood, and coaches in the past have spoken about the importance of getting this Iowa student body more engaged. So today, a big development in that regard for Hawkeye fans. And this will, I guess, impact some Iowa season ticket holders a little bit for men's and women's basketball and for wrestling as well. So I don't have an answer on necessarily what that looks like. Here's from the release from the university. The installation of the riser will affect some current season ticket holders for women's basketball and men's wrestling. The athletics ticket office will assist with relocations as needed during the renewal process. And not to make light of anybody getting displaced, season ticket holders, you value every single season ticket holder that you've got. But this just felt like something that needed to be done inside Carver Hawkeye Arena. So with a good thing, might in some small way for some be a little bit of an uncomfortable thing, at least in the immediate, where you try to figure out, okay, wait a second, if you have this new student riser, what does that mean for me in my women's basketball or wrestling season tickets? Well, we shall see, but I would imagine that the athletic department will work hard to find a solution for those season ticket holders that doesn't displace you too bad and keeps you with a great sightline and a great seating arrangement. So that is big news in Iowa athletics. I would have been a big-time proponent for get the students closer to the court on that south baseline. Make Carver Hawkeye Arena a place that's intimidating for folks to come into inside the Big Ten Conference. And obviously that has happened today. Some of the just seating notes for everybody out there. Season ticket prices, men's basketball ranging from $335 to $385, depending on location. Women's basketball, black padded sections. Adults tickets, we found out, $225 to $250. Faculty and staff and seniors, $205 to $225. Courtside seats, $400. And let's see, non-black padded sections, a little bit cheaper there. Looks like $215 to $235 for adults. The faculty, staff, and seniors, $190 to $215. Season ticket pricing for women's basketball on the non-black padded sections, and the youth side, $130 to $140 there. Men's wrestling season ticket pricing for the black padded seats, $200. All other locations, $175 for the public and $160 for faculty and staff. So count me in the camp that's big news for Carver Hawkeye Arena, and good news for Coach Ben McCollum. So let's see. We got plenty to get to tonight on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Thanks to those of you hanging out with us on Iowa at the Voice of College Football. T-Hink is waiting in the wings. Taylor, I see you back there. Just real quick, a couple of things off the top as we get the show rolling tonight. So some viewer mail, and that's kind of what tonight on Thursdays is designed to do at 6 o'clock Iowa at the Voice of College Football, is to give you the platform to jump in and sound off, not just with me, but with other Iowa fans here, Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. And at any rate, I see the comments that you leave, not just in our live chat here, and thank you guys for hanging out and chatting with me and with us on the Voice of College Football, but I see on the YouTube side as well. Once we complete a show, I see your comments. So anyways, just want to pay one of those off. Logan, T-Hink, good evening to you, my friend. Logan, good evening. Great to see you all. Mr. Apen 92. So this from the YouTube comment section. I'm going to share this and point it out. Iowa's season is determined by their first 5 games. And sorry for the fine print out there, everybody. If they win the winnables and then go on to beat Iowa State and Indiana, I will see them as a threat to compete with both Penn State and Oregon. If Iowa starts 5-0, watch out, to quote Joel Klatt about Iowa beating Iowa State, and then goes into a little bit deeper detail here. Iowa State hasn't won against Iowa in Ames since 2011. That would have been that triple overtime game, 44-41. Interestingly enough, there was another 44-41 overtime game that the Hawkeyes won a couple of years later in 2017 in Ames. Just a weird historical coincidence there in the scoring front. But the triple overtime loss in 2011, that's the last time that Iowa hasn't won in Ames, and 2007 before that. So if Iowa wins that game, according to Mr. Apen, they next get Indiana at home, not to overlook Rutgers. They can start then 5-0 with a good home performance versus Indiana. If they prove to have a competent passing game by game 5, which will be much needed against Indiana, then 100% they have a chance to go 1-1, pick your poison on the 1-1 versus Penn State or Oregon, which are also both at home. Iowa's rushing game seems to be underrated this season, somehow when their offensive line will be better, while Kamari Moulton, averaged over 5 yards per carry, while nearing 100 rushes last year, not including the litany of running backs behind him. Add a real passing game that's hopefully successful, and their running game will be comparable to last year despite losing Caleb Johnson, just more spread out. Overall, though, it all depends on Mark Gronowski with the passing game and their defense to show up a true complementary football team. The optimistic Iowa view from Mr. Apen, 11-1, Oregon or Penn State losses if they start 5-0, 9-3 if they drop one of their first 5 games, and that pessimistic view from Mr. Apen, 7-5, Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, USC losses, and then dropping another against your Wisconsin or Iowa States of the world. So there you go. The first 5 games, according to Mr. Apen, will lay the foundation for what positively or negatively happens for Iowa. So let's look at that. Here's your schedule. And Albany, Iowa State, UMass, at Rutgers, Indiana. I would take it a step further and say, if this season is going to be what Hawkeye fans hope it can be and think that it can morph into one of those special seasons mixed in there, I look just at all of the first 6 games. I know that probably, Mr. Apen, why you didn't include the October 11th game is, well, road trip out to Wisconsin, and you have to be mindful of and respectful of Camp Randall, jump around, the challenge that rivalry date presents. But Wisconsin, to me, they have to prove that they are, in fact, a upper half team in the Big Ten right now with Luke Fickell. I don't know that they still are that yet, Wisconsin this season. Quarterback situation has been unsettled throughout the Luke Fickell tenure. So to me, I'm looking at the front half of Iowa's schedule, all of it, and thinking that there is a pathway to Iowa being 6-0. Could it be a successful season if you get out of there, those first 6 games, 5-1, 4-2? Sure, it could. But with that back half of the schedule, you got another trophy date, a couple of trophy date games mixed in there. You've got the Penn State game, which is the biggest test, it looks like, on this schedule for the Hawkeyes. You've got Oregon. You've got that road trip to USC. And obviously, you've got the trip to Nebraska there too. So to me, the front half of the schedule, I would agree with your assessment that if this season is going to be what Iowa wants it to be, a season where you can be a Big Ten championship contender, a double-figure win type team, then probably we're talking about a 5-0 start where you handle business, you go on the road and you win at Iowa State. You obviously go to Rutgers and beat a team that on paper, I think we all agree, you are better than going into this season. And then you beat an Indiana team that has been an upstart from last season coming into this. Of course, they've got Curtis Rourke to replace Fernando Mendoza. They went and got from Cal, who's thought to be a big-time quarterback coming in for Kurt Signetti. But if you can navigate that at 5-0, then probably that sets the possibility for Iowa to get to a 9-3 finish, to comfortably get to an 8-4 regular season finish, and maybe even that 10-2 or above. But you got to get out of the blocks. You got to go win at Iowa State. You have to beat a team that you're better than in Rutgers, and you have to beat Indiana at home for Iowa. I think all of that makes sense to me. And the Iowa State game, right? That's always an important one. I went back through the series history, so you guys wouldn't have to tonight, and many of you know this, but the seasons that wind up being great seasons for the Hawkeyes typically coincide with Iowa handling its business versus Iowa State. So all the way back to 2008, here's how the seasons played out, win or loss versus Iowa State. 2008, you beat Iowa State 17-5. You go on to a 9-4 season where, oh, by the way, you won the Outback Bowl. 2009, that would have been at Iowa State. You win that one going away, 35-3. And I think this is a notable occurrence where if you kind of romp to victory, maybe that signals the type of season it could be for Iowa. But you won that one in 2009, 35-3. That was an 11-2 season for the Hawkeyes where you went on, you won the Orange Bowl. 2010, that would have been at home, 35-7, another beatdown of Iowa State, 8-5 season. So that maybe bucks that trend a little bit where you say, hey, you beat Iowa State and you do it in that fashion, it's going to wind up being a great season for the Hawkeyes. Just wound up 8-5. You did win the bowl game, though. 2011, this would have been the last time that Iowa lost to Iowa State in Ames. 2011, we talked about it, that triple overtime game, 44-41. The Hawkeyes lost that one, and you lost your bowl game, which was the Insight Bowl. That would have been versus Oklahoma, and it wasn't close. It was a 7-6 season. Okay, so you turn around the next year, you lose in 2012 to Iowa State, 9-6. It was a 4-8 campaign for the Hawkeyes. 2013, bounce back. You win that game versus Iowa State, 27-21, 8-5 season. So a winning season. Lost the Outback Bowl that year. 2014 would have been a home loss versus Iowa State, 20-17, and it was one of those downer kind of years. 7-6. You lost the Tax Slayer Bowl that year. 2015, 31-17. The Hawkeyes won over Iowa State. That was in Ames in 2015. And oh, by the way, it wound up being a great season. Very memorable season. 12-2 was the finish that year. Lost the Rose Bowl. That elusive Rose Bowl championship. Got in the game, but obviously did not go according to plan versus Stanford. 2016, again, going away, 42-3 versus Iowa State, and went on, had an 8-5 finish, lost that Outback Bowl, but an 8-win regular season for the Hawkeyes. 2017, 44-41. That was an overtime win for Iowa versus Iowa State, and 8-5 finish, Pinstripe Bowl victory. 2018, 13-3 versus Iowa State, won that contest. went on to make it an 8-4 regular season, won the bowl game, the Outback Bowl, finished 9-4. 2019, 18 to 17, you beat Iowa State, went on, and it was a double-figure win season thanks to the Holiday Bowl victory. 2020, the first time since the 70s that you didn't play the Cyclones, the COVID season. 6-2, throw that one out. You didn't play Iowa State that year. 2021, you went and won that big early season showdown where both teams came into it ranked 27-17, and that was a 10-win season for the Hawkeyes. Obviously, tough finish to the year, but a great start to it. 10-4 was the finish for Iowa that season. 2022, you lost 10-7. That was an eyesore of a game at home inside Kinnick versus Iowa State, and obviously it set the table for what was an eventual 8-5 finish with the Music City Bowl win. 2023, you went and won at Iowa State, and the 10-4 finish, a little bit deceiving, right? Because that was a 10-win regular season before the Hawkeyes lost the Big Ten championship game. So, and then, of course, last year we know you lost that game 20-19. So you could probably break a lot of this early season slate down to do you handle your business versus Iowa State? If you do, then a lot of times history says that those are the seasons that coincide with Iowa winning 9 games in the regular season, winning 10 games in the regular season. And maybe this can morph into one of those magical seasons for the Hawkeyes if you just handle business versus Iowa State. But I agree with the assertion that that front half of the schedule is clearly more gettable for Iowa as compared to the back half of the schedule. So with that being said, the Hawkeyes, they need to make hay versus Albany, at Iowa State. Go get that game versus those guys this season. Come home, beat UMass, go to Rutgers, win it, handle business versus Indiana at home, who is still breaking in, a new quarterback there alongside Kurt Signetti, and then go win at Wisconsin. Trophy game, it'll be tough because it's a rivalry game, but again, I don't necessarily like the direction that Wisconsin is under with Luke Fickell. I still think that's a game that, at least going into the season, until we find out that, there are still some offensive problems for Iowa, I'm hoping that Mark Gronowski solves a lot of the passing game woes that all of us have struggled through, so that becomes a more winnable road game. But even if Iowa is not totally settled with the passing game early, by the time you get to Wisconsin, you feel like you got a great chance to have figured some things out in year 2 under Tim Lester. And, oh, by the way, Mark Gronowski would have had some seat time and some time to get comfortable with these weapons around him, the Weegens, the Howards, the Jacob Gills, the Sam Phillips of the world. You would have some seat time to get comfortable with those wide receivers around you, Addison Ostrenga, the tight ends, you name it out there. And Wisconsin, they got to prove that they can turn a little bit of a corner in, I believe, year 3, right, for Luke Fickell there. So, and then that back half of the schedule, much more daunting. Penn State at home. Everybody thinks that that's a Big Ten national championship type contender. We'll see about Minnesota. Again, they're kind of in that similar spot with Wisconsin to me, to where don't know that you need to believe that PJ Flex squad. It's a rivalry game. It's obviously in Kinnick, so you like that. You like that part of it for Iowa. It's a trophy game, so you pay it its respect. But on paper, Minnesota, you feel like you should beat those guys. Oregon, big time challenge at USC, big time challenge. Michigan State, a year forward there. Are they a little bit more improved? You got a bone to pick with those guys based on a game that you gave away last year, and it's in Kinnick, and of course at Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, that should be a challenging date for the Hawkeyes. It's in Lincoln. That's one more year of seat time for Dylan Raiola. So the back half of the schedule clearly is more difficult when you look at games that you maybe don't feel as confident going into for Iowa. The back half is where they're at on the schedule. Penn State, Oregon, USC, and maybe even that road trip to Nebraska. So I would agree. The front half of the schedule, probably if we're talking double figure win season, you got to get out of there with, I think there's a good chance you might have to win all 6 in the front half of the schedule. But if we're talking great season, maybe you can get to, and I don't know if you would put 9-3 at great, but 10-win season, maybe you can get there at 5-1, but probably you got to be 6-0. But you can get to 9-3, I think, if you just have the one hiccup in that front half of the schedule. Okay, I'm going to share the StreamYard link one more time here. It is Iowa at the voice of college football. This is Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. And tonight is designated for you to jump in and share some of your thoughts. Scott is in the house. Hello, Josh. Go Hawks. Yes, go Hawks, and a happy 4th of July to you, Scott. Let's start taking some of your thoughts out there. My man T. Hink is always hanging out. He's got the Herky backdrop there, some other Iowa
merchandise.
There you go. I'm trying to find the right word here.
Oh yeah. How you doing?
Take it away, my friend. What's on your mind this evening? And happy 4th of July to you.
Happy 4th of July to you as well. So first off,
ornaments is I think what I was looking for.
Oh yeah, good there. So going back to the beginning of the show where you're talking about moving the student section, give Beth Getz her flowers again. She's done everything right in her tenure, I think, from firing Brian, which was crazy in her position just to step over Kirk and get to Brian was great. Hiring Ben McCollum, that was another great hire, and also staying in house with Jan Jansen. She's done everything right, I think, so far in her tenure. And moving the students closer to the floor is going to absolutely help that game day atmosphere. I know when I've been to a couple of games at Carver versus Kinnick, it's night and day difference from Carver to Kinnick. I feel like at Carver, you can't really say much. I feel like you're just like there for watching. You can't really like yell, get into the game. You're like more like just a bystander, I guess, watching a team. And it's kind of, I prefer just watching at home. So hopefully this change will help get the environment back into Carver on those game day atmospheres and make fans want to go, because I know some fans like to get up and yell, and they feel like you can't do that when you're at a game and you got people around you telling you to sit down.
Right.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, look, I think the students in college are always the lifeblood of the environment. Doesn't mean you can't have a great crowd without the students, but it's college sports. Right. And the student section and the student engagement is gigantic. And the Hawkeye students need to feel more involved, getting them courtside with that riser where you hope that, look, they're right there. They're front and center now on that south baseline. Right. So if you're not there, guess what? One thing I know about young folks is they're reading Twitter. They're catching what's out there on Instagram. They're following TikTok. So if you're not there, guess what? Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan State and on and on and on. Everybody's going to be goofing on you for not being at these games. So I think that provides, hopefully, a little motivation, a little incentive for the students to get down there. And flat out, when you're a student and you're trying to decide, okay, I've got now all these different options for entertainment. Any number of streaming platforms, right? Well, what am I going to watch on streaming or television? The bars, let's just call it what it is, right? Where am I going to go have a fun night out?
Right.
What can make this an environment that I want to be a part of? And if I feel like I can impact the game, I can razz an opposing player a little bit within reasonable lines, right? Where we're not crossing any of those lines that shouldn't be crossed. That's what gets the students in, right? That's what makes it fun. And for these Hawkeye men's and women's basketball players, they want that too. The coaching staff wants a crowd that's engaged, that lives and dies with every turnover and every made shot and every swipe of the basketball. So I just think this was a no-brainer. I give Beth Getz a big round of applause for it. It feels like it was long overdue. I know fans have been talking about it for a long time. And hopefully now, hey, look, you've been talking about it. You've been pining for it. And now students, the ball's in your court to go deliver.
Yes, the students got to show up now. The administration did their due diligence. Now the students have got to show up and show effort that they want to be there. I thought you did great. And hopefully now the students want to buy in, and which I think Ben's going to do that as long as the fans buy into that. And then I think that should be good hands. I like the hire, and I've always thought Ben was going to be a great coach here at Iowa, and hopefully that continues to do great. Seeing all these off-season workouts gets you going, man. The basketball can't be here fast enough. But then switching it over to football, I said a couple of weeks ago on this very show, if I would get off to a great start, 5-0, 6-0, I think that will help get the end of the season going. I think it'll turn out to be a great season if that happens. For me, it comes down to both sides of the ball. Can the defense not fall off like it did last year, not give up those big plays, and can the offense at least do something in the passing game? If they can take the passing game to the next level, I think it all comes down to Mark Gronowski. If he can change the narrative for the QB position at Iowa and not where it's going to come to die, that position has been not good since Kirk's taken over. If he can change that narrative as well as the wide receiver position, going forward, I think that can help Iowa's recruiting pitches for not only getting a high-end portal transfer candidate or a high school kid to come to Iowa. Just throwing that tape on that, we're going to get you the ball for receivers. You're going to score some touchdowns will help dramatically in the passing game. I think the passing game takes another step forward this year with Tim Lester and the company.
If Gronowski can deliver, man, it can totally change the picture for the Hawkeyes. There's some buzz out there that Hank Brown has really started to turn the corner. I tend to believe and look, I've cautioned in the 3-4 months that we've done this here on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. One of the items that we talked about coming out of the open spring practice was, look, I get it. I'm seeing with my eyes, one open spring practice. This is not indicative always of the entirety of the spring or what the summer is going to bring or what the fall camp might bring. But to me, I thought that, again, Jackson Stratton still looks very solid. To me, he looked like maybe he had the leg up in the backup quarterback category, but that's kind of not the buzz that's out there anymore, that Hank Brown has really cranked it up a notch, and maybe he's kind of solidifying himself as the Hawkeyes backup quarterback. Which the other item there, T. Hink, is not everybody gets to line up with the ones, and not everybody lines up with the twos. It kind of gets interspersed a little bit there, so that makes the open practice maybe difficult at times to judge everything that you're seeing, whether it's quarterback, wide receiver, running back, corner, just all across the board, every single position. You want to see good on good. If it's offensive line, defensive line, ones versus ones, okay, that can give you a pretty good indication. But if it's, twos here versus the ones there, that maybe complicates things a little bit. But I thought Jackson Stratton, to me, still looked like he was a little bit ahead. But all of which is to say, if Gronowski is really good this season, then that incentivizes Hank Brown, who continues to get better as we go, to stick around and be a part of what Tim Lester and Iowa is building offensively. And that's exciting to think about. Or if you go back into the portal this time a year from now, probably a little bit earlier than that, in January, now all of a sudden you're a more attractive destination. And I think that's what everybody wants, right, is for Iowa to get to that point. And it feels like, again, there's so much importance upon Gronowski being that guy.
Right. A couple more non-Iowa things here. Back to the Wisconsin thing. I'm not on their hype train. There was a beat writer out there. I think they said that they can get to 7-5. I'm like, that's kind of a stretch in my opinion. The schedule for them is kind of a daunting. I think if Vic don't get the 6 wins this year in a bowl game, which I think is very unlikely, I think he's going to be fired, because I think they wanted more than 6 wins. They wanted to win national titles when he got hired, and I don't think he's going to get it done there. I think he's going to be out the door before the season's over with. And then I saw something else where this is like college football related, but there was a new transfer window thing opening up, I think next
Yeah.
July 7th, I think, for a week. I think it's more for like non-scholarship players to find a house or find a place to play for their year. I think, isn't it sounding like they're going to be doing the I guess the amount of players on the team 105, I think it is, or is that grandfathering in where they're not going to be doing the 105 this year?
So they've got 105 player roster limits across college football. Now, there are some exceptions for, I think, just this first year. By the 2026 season, you got to be down to 105, all across the board. But in order to grandfather, yes, some players in, if basically the situation was if you were going to have a spot, but the 105 player limit kind of sent you into the transfer portal, sent you somewhere else, well, now you could be put into what you're talking about, which is this new transfer portal window, which is coming up. Kind of crazy, but we got one final window, and it will be interesting to see if Iowa adds anybody out of this final kind of waiver window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be curious to see who enters that. I would think this late in the period, I would think it's probably more people that are like trying to find a spot, more of a walk-on base than more of a high-end player would be wanting to join a team this first week in July. So I think it'd be kind of crazy to join a team if you're that good. But you never know, I guess. They're always out there, but they're always looking.
And Iowa has found some diamonds in the rough before. So if there's somebody that can cash in on this, you'd have to say the Hawkeyes track record is better than most. Hey, before I get you out of here, 4th of July plans? Do you have big traditions? What does 4th of July look like for you? A happy 4th to you again.
I usually watch some fireworks, grill. Tonight we had some hot dogs. Tomorrow we'll have some hamburgers. So it's a good grilling season. I like to grill, so it's one of my favorite hobbies to do. So
now, are you married to a specific brand of burgers, hot dogs, brats? Does it have to be a specific kind?
I'm not a picky eater. Any meat related is good to me. So any hamburger, it could have I bought some that have like cheese in them and
man, that's the best.
Yeah, we have interesting stores here in Iowa. They're like Fairway have pumps like cheddar brats where they could put cheese in them. It's kind of good. So it's kind of fun to change it up here and there. So
that's awesome, man. Well, happy 4th to you, my friend. I just got done assembling my Blackstone grill. So that was my birthday present. Had to have it. My birthday's not until the end of this month, but had to have it in front of July 4th. That way we can grill tonight into tomorrow. So
right.
We are celebrating this country in proper fashion at the Helmer household. So happy 4th, my friend. Thanks for jumping in here.
Same to you. Have a good night and go Hawks.
Go Hawks, buddy. See you, man.
See ya.
T-Hink, and you can jump in too if you have thoughts on the Hawkeyes this coming season. Let's see. We opened up tonight the Iowa students at Carver Hawkeye Arena. They now have a courtside riser. That's something that a lot of Iowa fans have been calling for some time, and you got it going into this season. Real quick before we move on what T-Hink was talking about right there. In case you missed it, the NCAA has approved a one-time transfer portal window. It's why Power 4 front offices don't expect notable entries. This is from CBS. A new transfer portal window for eligible players opens July 7th and closes August 5th. Matt Zenitz writes, but don't expect much marquee movement. So let me just read this story to you here real quick. 2 months removed from the end of the spring transfer portal window, there will now be one final run of players popping up in the portal ahead of the 2025 college football season. It's the result of the NCAA Committee on Legislative Relief's decision to issue a waiver that allows certain players to enter the transfer portal between July 7th and August 5th. However, as one Power 4 general manager told CBS, this one-time portal window is expected to essentially be, quote, a big nothing burger, end quote. So basically, not expected to be the high-profile scholarship players, but again, I wouldn't put it totally past Iowa to find a diamond in the rough. So just a little bit more on how you're eligible for this transfer portal window coming up on July 7th through August 5th. In order for a player to enter the portal during this new window, a team has to name that player a designated student athlete, which is limited to players that teams don't want to count against the 105-player roster limit. So essentially, players that have not been, this would be, in my mind anyways, the way my mind works, this would be your walk-ons. This would be your non-scholarship players out there, your non-revenue share players out there. At least I think this would be your non-revenue share players. That's how it reads. So that's why the consistent expectation among CBS's front office sources is that the players that enter during this window will be walk-ons or, at best, back end of the roster scholarship players. No one of note will be entering during this window. These are kids that we essentially don't find good enough, end quote, from a high-ranking Power 4 team official. But you know what? Somebody else's forgotten luggage could maybe be a diamond in the rough for Iowa. And you start thinking about different positions for the Hawkeyes. Could the defensive backfield at corner, at safety, just one or two in there, could that be a spot? You think about adding one of these players that would enter in this extra window from July 7th to August 5th. Could that be an area you'd look at? Maybe, right? And at any rate, if it's a player that somebody else doesn't want, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Hawkeyes couldn't find some value in a player like that. Iowa has its history of landing walk-ons. We know that. And as a matter of fact, one of the pieces of news this week, the Hawkeyes have picked up another walk-on commit. That would be Eli Robbins, who made the decision to stay in-state and has committed to the Hawkeyes. Eli Robbins, the 2026 walk-on from right in-state from Norwalk High School. Eli Robbins, 6 foot, 190-pound defensive back out of Norwalk, Iowa, accepted a preferred walk-on opportunity with Iowa over offers from Army, from North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Northern Iowa, Illinois State, and Dartmouth. In 2024, last season, Eli Robbins, 28.5 tackles, 4 interceptions, one of which was taken back a pick six. So 1 interception returned for a touchdown. Also was a return specialist, returned 12 kicks for 271 yards, 7 punts for 91 yards. Did a little bit of everything, played some quarterback for Norwalk, as well as wide receiver, 17 of 28 passing for 216 yards and a couple of touchdown passes, 48 carries for 325 yards, 3 scores, and as a wide receiver, caught 39 passes for 589 yards and 10 touchdowns. That is Eli Robbins, the latest commit to the Hawkeyes, and it is a walk-on commit to the Hawkeyes. Eli Robbins joining the Hawkeyes. See if I can pull up this graphic for you for Eli Robbins. There's his commitment graphic. Eli Robbins right there. T. Hink bringing up, sounds like Iowa is in the mix to land a high school kid for basketball. Trey Thompson. That is the buzz that is out there building. I don't know that anybody's reported it publicly, but you kind of have the 24-hour rule to some degree, and probably enough Iowa fans know to where I feel comfortable here feeling like I'm not totally stealing something from behind the paywall and bringing it to the forefront, because I think a lot of Iowa fans know this. It does sound like there's momentum for Iowa with Trey Thompson. He is a 2026 forward, though the buzz is he will not be a 2026 forward. The buzz is that Trey Thompson out of Greenville, Tennessee, recently visited Iowa, took a June visit to the Hawkeyes, June 23rd, came to Iowa, has had a couple of other visits, went to Vanderbilt after his Iowa visit, is at least scheduled for now to visit Clemson at the couple of weeks from now at the end of this month, toward the end of the month of July. But Trey Thompson, a 6'8" forward, a true four, kind of what he's regarded, blue chip kid in the 2026 class out of Tennessee. Lead recruiter is Luke Barnwell, and it's thought that the 4-star is trending for Iowa, and that if he commits to Iowa, that he will reclassify into the 2025 class and will join the Hawkeyes next season. That obviously, from a depth standpoint, would be a big-time get for Iowa. Ben McCollum has been out front and center talking about, hey, we still want one more. And it sounds like maybe Trey Thompson could be that one more for the Hawkeyes. In contention here, the presumed big competition is in-state Tennessee, so the Volunteers, who obviously have had a tremendous program of late with Rick Barnes steering the ship there. Purdue, thought to be a big contender, and, of course, Iowa. And it sounds like the Hawkeyes, some legitimate steam in this recruitment. You don't want to say that this thing's locked up until it's locked up and until he's coming to campus with the Hawkeyes. But there's at least legitimate momentum out there that Iowa, after the visit, has picked up steam here, and that they are a legitimate player to maybe land Trey Thompson, who is a blue chip forward in the 2026 class and would potentially reclassify into 2025 and join the Hawkeyes for the first season with Ben McCollum and this staff. That would be big to slot him in behind Alvaro Fulgaris, to pair him up with Cam Manuel and that front line for the Hawkeyes. And you don't have to expect a ton if Trey Thompson's coming in for his freshman season. He can play some spot minutes for you, and Alvaro Fulgaris can be the big Spaniard star for you, and whatever Trey Thompson can give you on top of that, well, that would be great to go along with a backcourt that has its superstar in Bennett Sturts, that is thought to be a big-time 2026 NBA draft pick. He's one of those top names in kind of the middle of those early 2026 NBA draft boards, but Bennett Sturts is right there in the middle of that first round of NBA draft boards in 2026. So you got the star there. You got Brendan Hassan out of Kansas State to be a three-point shooter for you. And obviously you filled in the rest of the backcourt with plenty of transfers from Drake. And you went and brought Fulgaris in to help the front line. So I like what Ben McCollum has built for the Hawkeyes. If you add Thompson, that would be one final big-time piece for Iowa. And to beat those types of schools, to beat Purdue, to beat Tennessee would be no small thing for Iowa. On the Iowa football recruiting front, unfortunately, we were monitoring a defensive back, and CJ Hester, he has committed. We thought that this might be the case, but CJ Hester, who would have been a big-time get for Iowa football, has committed. He stayed in-state. So CJ Hester, a Florida recruit, has committed to the Gators. Unfortunately, Iowa picked up some late momentum there, but it went ultimately the in-state direction as defensive back CJ Hester committed to the Gators. But the Hawkeyes still in a good spot. Darian Jones, another cornerback in this 2026 class for Iowa that seems like the Hawkeyes have great momentum for and are predicted by many to land. Right now, they're the heavy favorite, kid out of Omaha North. Another name that you're watching out there, Iowa football, on the recruiting front is a current Kansas State defensive back commit. Nick McClellan is a safety commit for the Wildcats, but there's some that feel like this could be a flip watch for Iowa. So that would be great news, though you miss out on CJ Hester. If you can add both Darian Jones and Nick McClellan to this class for the Hawkeyes to go along with Marcelo Vitti and who's the other defensive back commit? I'm not thinking of Ronnie Hill in this class for the Hawkeyes, who obviously you landed recently. That'd be a nice defensive back haul for Phil Parker for Iowa in this 2026 recruiting class. EA Sports College Football 26. Just real quick before we make our way out the door, how in is everybody on this? I, at some point, probably will pick up a copy of EA Sports College Football 26, and then I will proceed to probably not play it very much at all as football season comes around and I get busy broadcasting high school sports and talking about the Hawkeyes and talking about college football. Unfortunately, it'll probably pick up some dust. But here is what EA Sports College Football 26, here's how they rated the Iowa Hawkeyes, the highest rated Hawkeyes in EA Sports College Football 26. You've got defensive tackle Aaron Graves, Jennings Dunker, the Hawkeyes right tackle, presumed right tackle. You'd assume he just stays right there. They are both 91s, according to EA Sports College Football 26 in the initial unveil. Logan Jones, he's a part of that 90 and up club for Iowa. So Logan Jones right there at a 90. Let's see. Xavier Wampa right there at a 90. You've got Ethan Herkett, who is an 88. Is that Cohen Intringer right there? I'm having a tough time reading some of these. Too small, the fine print. But a look at some of the Hawkeyes, and, of course, Aaron Graves and Jennings Dunker, Logan Jones, those guys leading the way for you for the Hawkeyes and EA Sports College Football 26. Drew Stevens right there. Thank you. Thank you, T. Hink, in the chat at in 85 right there. Let's see. Who else? Kamari Moulton in 85. Addison Ostrenga right there is an 83. That's Reese Dakin, another specialist, as probably he should be, at an 85. So Max Llewellyn is down there as an 82. He I think is underrated in this, and an 82 for TJ Hall. Thank you, T. Hink, as the layers have covered up those names at the bottom there. You mentioned it, T. Hink. EA Sports College Basketball. They're going to be unveiling soon the college basketball equivalent of EA Sports College Football 26. I'm fired up about that. We won't get it, I guess, though, until the year 2028. So that's not anytime soon, unfortunately, for EA Sports College Basketball. But it is coming around the corner eventually. So that will be exciting down the road. Former Iowa basketball coach Fran McCaffrey, did you guys see this? Will be throwing out the Phillies first pitch on Sunday. I'm happy for Fran McCaffrey, man, that he gets to go back to Penn, his alma mater, and he, I think, will be well received. Not as much pressure at Penn basketball. I know it's his alma mater, so he'll want to win. I think the fire still burns in that way for Fran McCaffrey to put a winner together and to be an offensive-minded bunch that can score a bunch of points and go win basketball games. I'm happy for Fran, man. He gets to go back home. It's a less pressure-packed situation, and I think he'll do a really good job at Penn, but he'll be throwing out the first pitch on Sunday at the Phillies game, so that's kind of cool. Interesting note, right, on a day where we're talking about why did it take so long for the courtside seating to come around inside Carver Hawkeye Arena, but sure enough, you've certainly got it now. Athlon Sports, alongside some of the honors we talked about earlier this week from Phil Still, they have honored some Iowa football players. 4 of Iowa football's stars, they've gotten a little notoriety from the Athlon Sports preseason All-American teams. second team All-Americans, according to Athlon Sports. Center Logan Jones, punter Reese Dakin, and kick and punt return star Caden Weegan. Jennings Dunker also earned third team All-America honors from Athlon Sports. So 4 Hawkeyes getting preseason All-America honors from Athlon Sports. Again, center Logan Jones, punter Reese Dakin, and kick and punt return, and wide receiver, right? Don't slight Caden Weegan in that regard. Caden Weegan, a second team preseason All-American as well from Athlon Sports, and Jennings Dunker, a third teamer. Jennings Dunker, if you look at Pro Football Focus, man, he's the highest rated guy for the Hawkeyes, and we just showed the EA Sports College Football 26 ratings, and he's right there. You could see he's right there, Jennings Dunker, with Aaron Graves at 91. Mike jumps in. EA Sports video on YouTube showed Nebraska going to beat us, someone posted. Well, we had a little run against the Huskers anyways. Well, the good news is, Mike, it's just the EA Sports video game. So we don't have to put any stock into that. We don't have to panic about it. Everybody, hey, I think that's going to do it for me on this edition of Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. We'll see you on Monday. I hope everybody has a wonderful 4th of July holiday. We'll be continuing to talk plenty of Hawkeye football, but everybody, a happy 4th of July to you and your loved ones. T-Hink, you a happy 4th of July as well. Thank you for the kind words. Mike, T-Hink, everybody that's been hanging out in the chat tonight, Scott, Logan, appreciate you guys. And all of you that have been hanging out but you didn't comment and you've just been streaming along tonight, Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. Thanks for hanging with us. We'll be back with you on Monday night, 6 o'clock right here, Iowa, at the Voice of College Football. Happy holidays, everybody. Grill those hamburgers, grill those hot dogs, and more importantly than that, everybody stay safe. Have a happy holiday. Enjoy your family, your friends. And until Monday night, 6 o'clock right here, Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live, I'm Josh Elmer. Follow me. Follow my team's work, HawkeyesWire.com. That's where you can check out all of my written work. We'll be talking, of course, a lot of Iowa football over there. And follow the Voice of College Football at the Voice of College Football at the VOCFB. I'm at Josh on Ref, my personal Twitter handle. And you can follow the team's work at Hawkeyes Wire with us. Everybody, so long until Monday night at 6 o'clock. We'll see you then.